Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of the Relationship Atlas podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about one of the larger hot button issues in relationships, and that's money. Financial situation, financial beliefs, money stories. Money is such an influential part of our lives, and it can be an extremely difficult thing to talk about in a relationship, especially when we have different perspectives on what to do with money and what money means. So, today, I want to help you uncover some of the beliefs and the stories that you're operating under right now that you may not know yet, how that's impacting your relationship, and how to start getting more aligned as a team when it comes to money. So, when we think about money in a relationship dynamic, one of the biggest challenges we run into is that money equals power. You think about the person who has more money, traditionally has this feeling that they have more power, control, or influence in the relationship because money being or equaling power is shown to us everywhere in all movies, in general society, right? Even if somebody doesn't directly show they have power over us, they have a bigger house, they have a nicer car, and so we automatically feel less than. They must know something I don't. They must get something I don't. They must have something I don't. Therefore, they're more powerful than me. So that stems back into our relationship and shows up in the way that we talk about money and in the resentment we may start to create towards who makes more money and who doesn't. Money is also an incredibly loud conversation in today's society because we are shifting who is the traditional breadwinner. Used to be men, now it's in a lot of cases it's women, and so there is now a cultural aspect being played out in how we're able to manage our financial experience as a couple. And so how do we navigate all of the constant changes, right? I just aired to a couple of them. I didn't even talk about our familial challenges growing up. I didn't talk about our cultural challenges. I didn't talk about cultural influence and stereotypical approaches, right? All of that also contributes to our money story. And so when it comes to how to deal with this, I'll preface that I'm not a financial accountant. I'm not a wealth management expert. I'm not even a money expert. But what I am an expert in is relationships. So, what I'm pointing out today, what I want to help you with today is how you relate to your money, how you relate to money, how you relate to your partner's experience of money, and how do you create a third entity, which is your relationship. How do you create a different story based on the needs of the relationship? So, money is powerful, but money in a lot of ways is two things. It's a number, right? When you open up your app and you look at the screen and you log into the bank account and then it says checking and saving and whatever, what you're looking at is a number. So, if you take all emotion out of it, what you're looking at is a number, right? But that number has been given so much energetic allowance that it really impacts our emotional state because of what money means. So, if there's the first thing that I like to offer is can we separate the meaning from it and just see it as a number? For some of you, that might help. For some of you, that might be ridiculous. It's just an offering because the hope is that we can deload how much stress, anxiety, overwhelm, heightened emotions about money so that you and your partner can have a better conversation about it. So we're going to try on today money is a number I look at on a screen. What we can also utilize is a conversation that money is an exchange tool, right? I get to exchange this for that. That may take away or help take away some of that loaded experience that comes with money. I often like to look at money as an energetic exchange, right? Money is just simply changing hands. And when I give money or spend money, I'm exchanging or I'm giving energy, but I'm also receiving energy. So it's an energetic frequency, right? And then what that can live on is two different planes, on a spectrum, but generally it's looked at as an abundance or scarcity. And why I like to look at it that way is because I get to live in the world of shifting my awareness and my perspective and my belief towards the feeling of abundance. And almost every single time I'm met with actual abundance, the number ends up going up. But when I live in the energetics of scarcity, then sure enough, I find myself in difficult feelings or emotions and scarcity. Right? It's kind of that idea of where my energy goes, where my focus goes, my energy goes, right? Or energy is emotion in action, and so depending on how you view it, it's going to determine how well you can talk about it with your partner. If you have a story about money that is loaded, that is, it's a constant stressor in your life, it bothers you, you never seem to have enough, it always eludes you, you're hunting for more and then it disappears, right? Whatever money is to you, however you experience it, is going to determine how open you are to hearing your partner's experience. And it's going to determine how open you are to creating a new money story based on the needs and the requirements of your relationship. Now, what do I mean by that? There are three components to your relationship. There is you, there is your partner, and then there's the relationship. So there's three different entities here, meaning in financial conversation here, there's your money story and your money beliefs and how you experience money. There is this other human being, which is your partner, who has their money story, their money beliefs, and their experience of money. And then you have this other entity that a lot of us don't end up creating, which is the relationship's financial experience. Why I like to distinguish the separation there is because a lot of us try to spend our time changing our money story and have a really difficult time making that happen. We also spend a lot of time trying to change our partner's money story and have an even harder time changing or doing that because you can't really actually change people. And so, what I'm inviting into the conversation here is if you are having a difficult time either holding space for your partner's money story or working on improving your own, not your number, by the way, your experience of money, right? This is not a conversation to start making more or having less. It's a conversation on how you experience it. If you're having a difficult time navigating the two experiences of money, well, it's likely because you haven't created the third entity, which is separate from those stories, and that is the relationship's money story. Right? Imagine it like a third person. Right? Imagine it like somebody else, and it's a different entity. It has no history. It has no expectations. It doesn't have experiences around money yet. And what you get to do as a team is build that. You get to create that together. Right? So, what do we want our relational money experience to look like? Now, in order to have this, you have to ask the question, where are we going? What is our relationship vision? Where are we aligned on what next steps or what the future looks like? So, for some, that's marriage, right? Marriage is the next best step. Financially, though, we don't have it. And our money stories are this and this. Okay, cool. But what is the contribution to what's required? Because we both agree on the vision of marriage. So, how are our actions aligning with that beyond whatever our money story is? The same goes for children, right? If we want children in the future, what is required financially to have children? It doesn't matter what your money story is right now. What matters is what is required. What's the vision? And then it becomes a little easier for us to understand what's required to get there, what we need to do to get there, regardless of if we changed our money story or not. It doesn't matter. We know what we need to do, and that is direction. That's power, that's vision. Maybe it's when the kids leave the house, or it's retirement funds, or what have you, whatever it is. What is the relationship want? Right? What is the relationship asking of you? If that's our priority, if we know we want this relationship for life, then what does the relationship require of us? That conversation can be a huge opportunity, I would say, and can help a lot of us ease the stress of the money conversation. Because often we go in saying, this is my money story. I don't know why you don't agree. Why don't you see this money this way? Why are you spending or saving money like this? This doesn't make any sense. How are we ever going to get here? How are we ever going to do that? and we're going at each other instead of trying to understand each other. And if we can't do either of those things, then let's start focusing on that third entity instead. First, to start, you're going to have to go back to the other conversations, but at least for now, we're starting somewhere by creating a relationship vision and what is required financially to get there as a team. Okay. All right. Now let's get into your individual monies. Monies. I like that. Money stories, money beliefs. So the first question would be, what is your belief about money? What's your take? What do you believe to be true about money? I believe to be true that money is stressful. It's a stressor. It's a pain in the ass. That's my traditional and historical money story. Right? That, as you can tell, that's why I like to lean into abundance, because it helps me counteract that experience, and it helps me try to settle into a different feeling in my body about money. But traditionally, it's money is stupid. I wish it didn't exist. I guess I'm going to need it, so I'll do my best to have it. I really actually want nice things. I really want a big house. And I really want nice things. That's just the truth, right? There's no shame in my game. And yet I don't find myself getting closer to that because of this experience in my body I have about money that keeps me small, that keeps me playing small. So what is your money belief? What is your money story? Now, that experience you have about money, that belief, that story, comes from somewhere. So, growing up, how was money handled? Growing up, how was money spent? And how was money saved? And if you don't have the answers to those questions, then we can try growing up, how was money talked about? For a lot of us, money wasn't talked about at all. We were never around it, but we knew money existed. So it created this cognitive dissonance of, what is this thing? I see us buying things, and I see stress on my parents' face, and I don't see my dad all day traditionally. But I know somewhere in there, money rules the world. And so, do we have it? Do we not have it? I guess I just got to make up my own story here and figure it out. I don't know, right? That's a lot of our experience. We don't know what the money story is. No, money wasn't talked about, or maybe it was we don't talk about money. Therefore, money must be wrong, or there must be something wrong with money. So then I have to figure out what exactly is wrong with money. And just that experience can feel like stress, anxiety, overwhelm, worry, concern, fear, right? And now you're starting to get maybe a mold of what money was like. Now, maybe you grew up and you had a lot of money and it was very clear and you talked about it. Yeah, we're great. We're financially, we're set, we're solid. We're paying for this and we're paying for that. Yeah. So you will then likely grow up with this idea that money is abundant. Now, that experience can lead you to curating a financial abundance. You could have a lot of money, or it might actually make you lazy because you believe money is always available. So I don't have to really work hard for it. It's just always there. It doesn't really matter what the situation was. What matters is how you experienced it. And however you experienced it then creates some type of action or inaction today. So again, right, if you grew up with a lot of money, it doesn't mean you have a lot of money now, and it doesn't mean you have always been in abundance. It might mean that, or because of your experience of it just being there, right, you feel settled around money, and so you haven't really had to work hard for it. Now the world is kicking you in the face saying you do, and you're struggling. That could be true. Or you had no money, right? And so then your thought was, well, money's just scarce. So I better try to make as much as I can and hold on to every single penny of it. Don't spend it because it might just, I know what it's like to not have it and I'll never do that again. Right? Or maybe you grew up making money, but then spending it all so that you could get back to that feeling because that's what's comfortable for you. The stress of not having money, the chase and the stress involved in chasing money. That one's my experience. Money didn't feel safe to me growing up. Therefore, money, I'll get some and I'll get rid of it just as fast because I fear holding it, or I fear the feeling, or rather, I don't have the developmental skills to be able to hold a lot of money yet. And so that's where my work begins. And this is where we start to uncover, as we understand our experience of money, what is the next best step for us as an individual. It also creates a little bit more empathy and compassion around the reality of what's curated these stories, beliefs, and experiences for us. And it allows us then to better relate to our partner in a financial conversation. Now, let's take those questions and now let's apply them to this other conversation about what's necessary for the relationship, right? Again, if I know what my experience was of money and now I know what my partner's experience of money was, how does that influence, or rather, what do we then want to create together as far as a relationship story or a relationship financial situation? Just before we finish, there's a couple other questions that I want to offer you, and then we're going to finish with initiating this conversation. The next question I have for you is, how do you spend money on a traditional week, day, or month? How do you spend money? How do you spend when you have it? How do you spend it when you don't have it? And that might sound contradictory, but we know the situations where we probably shouldn't be spending money on something and we do anyway, right? So, how do you spend money when you have it? And how do you spend money when you don't? How do you save money when you have it? And how do you save money when you don't? Now, I'm going to add an extension to these questions. How do you spend money when you're stressed? How do you save money when you're stressed? When you're stressed, what does your financial situation look like? How does it change, if at all? And I say if at all because some of us are always stressed about money. And so our habits don't change, right? Whether money goes up or money goes down, I'm worried about it. So there's my consistent uh, routine in life, right? Next question. Were there any large financial shifts you experienced during your childhood? Are there lots of money and then no money, or no money and lots of money? Again, was money talked about? Did you had a sense that it was always available or that it was never available? Do you remember some of the things that you used to eat growing up? I know that sounds weird, but groceries growing up can be a pretty big determination if you don't know what your financial situation was like. If you were always eating home cooked meals, it's fair to say that your financial situation was pretty solid. And if you weren't, it's fair to say that there was less money involved. Now, neither good nor bad, nor right nor wrong. It's just simply what is. And then what we're trying to do is get to the what is and how we experienced that. So if there was always home cooked meals, well, we experienced that as this is what it means to be financially set. This is always available. So this is what we aspire to have. This is what we try to experience now, right? Or if there was, beans and bread or something along those lines, right? Or you're always eating boxed craft dinner and things of that nature, then there is a possibility, not necessarily the truth, but a possibility that money was scarce and therefore you refuse to buy boxed foods because you know that this is what you want to experience, which is home cooked meals, or you just know that it's normal to have boxed foods and who cares what anybody thinks. This is how I eat. This is what I do. This is how I spend my money. Regardless of what it is, right? What we're trying to take out of this conversation here is any shame or guilt or any blame on any sort of scenario. We're adults now. We're able to always take new action. And so what we're doing is owning how we experience it now and making a different decision if needed. And then what we're doing is saying, okay, now I need to navigate an entirely different person. So how do I do that? So once you've answered these questions, the hope is that then your partner is also answering these questions so that you can come to the conversation and just talk about it. So the first thing that I'm inviting into this conversation is don't try to get to the solution of what you need money to look like in your relationship. Don't try to get to the solution of what the third person is yet. Just start with these questions and then talking about them. Get curious, right? Understand your partner. Make it a relationship check-in conversation and make this the only part of it. Hey, I'm really excited to talk to you about money. Hey, tell me more about like what money was like growing up. What did you eat? Right. How did you guys spend it? What did you buy? Do you remember like what your gifts were like? Have conversations about money so you can understand where your partner is coming from. Because if we can't see the other person's views as human, if we can't see their other person's beliefs as another human who's also just trying to figure it out, then we will think our money story dominates theirs, and we will not get any closer to where we want to be. Right? This is where power comes in to the conversation. Right? You can't love from above or below somebody. Right? So if you believe you're more powerful because you have more money, you're not loving that person because you're above them. If you believe you're below this person, you can't love them because you believe you're below them. Love exists on the same as plane. Human, empathetic, compassionate love. Right? And so when we have these conversations, we start with these questions so we can get more clarity, we can understand our partner better, and then it opens up for like, hey, so like if you could change it, like what would you want your money story to look like? How do you want to feel about money? What kind of money do you want to have in your bank account? The questions to these might really surprise you, right? And so then we can better understand, okay, this person's reaching for the stars. This person's got a really, average, let's say, I don't want to call it mediocre because that might sound judgmental, but they have a more average median approach to what they think is what they think they need. And so, cool. Here's our two perspectives, neither right nor wrong, neither good nor bad. Now we're going to start to ask, once we're past this conversation, let me provide clarity on that. We're having a conversation about awareness and connection. You're not looking to solve anything in this conversation. You're just looking to get to know each other more. Doesn't matter how long you've been together. Doesn't matter where you are in your relationship. Understanding money is crucial. So have this conversation first and then be like, wow, that's so crazy. Like, I really appreciate you sharing. It's so good to know these things about you. Sounds like you've been through some wild things. And that's great to know about you. Move on, talk about something else, let the conversation breathe. Then maybe you wait a week or maybe just to your next relationship check in, you come back to the conversation, right? Because you've had time to digest, you've had time to connect. Now you kind of get and you can see in their day to day how they feel, where money is probably playing a part, how to support, right? You have this completely different view on how to approach your partner, which is awesome, right? Because you can connect better because you understand better. Now, what we get to do is decide, okay, where are we going as far as our relationship goes? What's the vision? Right? What are the next steps, if any? What do we want down the line? What do we hope to achieve? What do we hope to be able to afford, to buy, to purchase? This starts to create the story of the relational financial situation. We just start to get a good gauge. Here's what I hope for us. And this is where I encourage you to really try to keep the conversation dialed in on is you can have your own goals and aspirations as a human being, and those are allowed, but we need to make sure we're also aware of what it is that we want for our relationship, right? You having a new car doesn't necessarily support the relationship. Not always, anyway. Maybe it does because you have a family and it helps you transport and whatever. And your old car is rickety. Again, nuance. It doesn't really matter. What matters is you can have your own desires financially of what you want to be able to afford, but what do you need to afford as a team? So that talks about the things like maybe the one vehicle you need, or the children you want to have, the house you want to own, where and what neighborhood, what kind of daily luxuries or weekly luxuries or monthly luxuries do you want to be able to afford? How often do you want to be able to go out together and eat? Again, you might think, well, I always want to be able to eat out. It's like, yeah, awesome. But together in a relationship dynamic, is that still true? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Let's get to that clarity together, right? Let's answer that. What does it look like down the line when it comes to children growing up and leaving the house? What do we want to be able to do? Where do we want to go? None of this needs to be set in stone. It just needs to be created as a starting point, right? How do we start the conversation about what money is going to do for us as a team, regardless of what our individual money stories are? What is required for the things that we need in our relationship? Now, I'm speaking from this as my own experience, which is two sources of income being brought together. I want to acknowledge that in a lot of scenarios, that's not how things go. There might only be one source. And so it can be more of a challenging conversation, right? So if you're the person who has the money, right, and the other person is the person who doesn't have the money, right, you can hear how clearly that we have likely created a power dynamic unintentionally. And so when it comes to these decisions, it may start to feel like one person is the only one making the decisions, and that can be difficult. Right? So if you're the person listening to this that has the money, there is more being asked of you right now to step out of, I bring more to the table than you do. I am more valuable here than you are. I am worth more here than you are. Your financial situation doesn't make you better than your partner. And in a lot of ways, whatever situation you're currently in, you have put yourself in. So this is where we start to take ownership and understand that I'm in a relationship and I want us to be able to do these things. What do you think? What's your take? What do you want? Right? Because I'm the one who's going to be providing. I want to be able to provide. If we do want XYZ that are really big, I'm going to need to get a promotion or another job, or right, what's realistic based on what I currently make, what I'm currently bringing in, right? What's realistic to save and spend, and then open up a pocket of proclivities to be able to kind of spend here and there together, right? There's a lot more that's going to be involved. Now, a lot of this again is going to be necessary to do with the support of another person like a relationship coach or therapist, because you can hear how much nuance is in there and how much is not able to be accessed just simply through listening to a podcast or taking a course or what have you, right? A lot of it does need to be held in a safe container. But for now, what we're working on, if you listen this far, is your money story, your money beliefs, what's impacting the way you spend and save money now. Why do you believe you do that? What's really true? What does your partner believe about money? What kind of financial situation do you want to be in a relationship? That one is more of a question for the people who are single. And then how do we start to create the vision together, right? What does the money situation look like for the things that we want as a team in the future, right? Now, if we are in the situation where two financial sources are being brought in, then in a lot of ways, it can be really helpful for you to have your own pockets of money, but know that this is our joint bank account. This is something we've combined together because this is the money story over here, right? This is our money story for our relationship. This is the account that goes to this and is used like this and so on. Now, if I blow my money, I can't contribute to that account. So not only am I impacting my own financial situation, but now I'm impacting the requirements of our relationship story as a unit, right? So it's bigger than me now. Once you're in a relationship, things are a lot bigger than you. It's bigger than us. And so how do we start to contribute to something bigger than us? That can really help us get far in a relationship dynamic when it comes to money, is understanding that this is now bigger than us. There's two of us here now. We make a bigger impact now. What do we need to do? How do we do it? The last piece is just understanding that your relationship is unique and it requires a unique approach to be able to structure your finances. So, getting support can be really beneficial. And if it's not a coach or a therapist, it's a financial assistant that helps you understand where your money's going, what it looks like to do this or this down the line, what's realistic, right? Find somebody that you trust and start working through it. If you're not doing that right now, I would encourage you to start, because it's going to come up eventually. And so, how do we start to get aligned? How do we start to navigate the differences of our financial situation or our financial stories in more effective ways? I'll leave you with this. Neither story or belief is good or bad, right or wrong, healthy or unhealthy. It's just the way that you currently experience money. The question I want to invite you to answer to close is the way you currently operate financially effective and productive for the results that you want? If it's not, then all it is an ineffective approach or an unproductive approach. And I want to offer you that language because it doesn't really do you much of a service to start shaming yourself for the way you operate. God, I can't believe I do that. I'm so stupid. Why can't I just figure it out? I'm such a bad financially controlled person. I just can't get a hold of things. None of that's going to help you move forward. So, what's productive here? What's more productive? Right? The moment you realize that the approach you're taking is ineffective to the way that, or to the goals that you want, then it's almost automatic that your mind says, well, what would be effective then? And you get to go and actually explore a more effective approach or a more effective system or a more effective plan. Right? Same thing with productive or unproductive. This is producing the results that I want, or it's not producing the results that I want. Okay. So now it automatically asks the question, what's more productive? The moment we say, I am a piece of shit, I am incapable, there's no question that comes up that asks, well, what if I was? We don't get there very quickly, if ever, right? And so productive and unproductive, effective and ineffective are going to be words that hold less emotional weight, but that inspire better action, more action, quicker action. That's all for today. I hope that this provided some clarity in your relationship dynamic. Remember that the things that we relate to are our own kind of relationships. What I mean by that is, right, we have our own relationship with money. Our partner has their own relationship with money. The same goes for sex. The same goes for society, culture, family, and so on. We all have different relationships to different things. And so neither relationship is good, bad, right, wrong, healthy, unhealthy. It's just what it is, and it's how they're experiencing it. And so let's focus on the experience and try to understand that, both for ourselves and for them, so that we can understand what kind of dynamic we're going to be creating together over time. Relationships are a long game, they're not a short game. So if you're going to have a conversation today, let it be about curiosity, let it be about understanding, let it be about figuring it out, figuring your partner out. And then from there, you can open up some doors to say, okay, well, what if we walk through this door together? What would that look like? And you can get to more clarity, but it doesn't need to be today. And if you have differing money stories today, it doesn't mean you're incompatible. And it doesn't mean that things won't change or can't change. This is just where we are right now. This is just the first step. And it's super corny, but you don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step, quote, comes back into play, right? This conversation around what our money stories are is just the first step. I hope this provided some support for you today. Thanks for listening. I will see you in the next episode.